Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Story number 1. Don't Target Human Kids, written by TCGM. Never attack young humans specifically. It is not recommended to harm them in the process of war. But so long as they are not the original target, then humanity will usually mourn them as casualties of that war. But if you intend to use human attachments to the young against them, do not even think of doing so. That's what the Hellwolder did. The Hellwolder are now an endangered species, only kept alive by humanity adopting their young. Humans have prisons where they send the worst of their criminals, murderers, assaulters, high-crime drug lords, and so on. These villains agree on very little. But even in these depths of depravity and despair, there is one kind of being they will all independently decide to severely injure or murder in return. Those who kill their young. Anyone's young. Humans will not spare those of their own species who target the young. Why would they spare you? End of story. Story number 2. Castaways, written by Warp Mind. Kosk groaned softly as he opened one of his 3 eyes, trying to get his bearings. The last thing he remembered was an alarm. Then something hit his head and blackness. And now he was resting on what felt like sand. He opened another eye slowly, trying to look around. Hey, now, buddy, try not to move. You got banged up pretty badly there. I dragged you into the life pod, and we landed safely on the planets below. The emergency beacon is working, and we should expect help in, 20 standard days or so. Kosk opened the 3rd eye, staring up at the human from the adjacent cabin, the most unsettling fellow passenger. Human Roger, was it not? Roger nodded. Yeah, Roger. And you are Kosk, right? The ship was hit by something. I don't know what, and went down. I don't know if anyone else survived, but I think we're the only ones to land on this island. You, unfortunately, have a number of broken bones, and probably a concussion. I've set them as best I could, but you're gonna have to stay in bed for a while. Kosk looked up at the sky, then turned his head sideways just long enough to feel 10,000 angry stinging insects attack his neck and head. 16 star clusters, it hurts. Where did you find the bed? The escape pods don't have those. Roger grinned wryly. Old Boy Scout, buddy. The life pod has some rations and basic tools, and I can make do pretty quick, so just rest there for a bit, and I'll get to work. Kosk didn't really have much in the way of alternatives, so he closed his eyes and tried to rest through the pain, hearing the rhythmic thumping and creaking of what could only be an axe against wood. Apparently, the island had vegetation at least. Kosk howled in pain as his leg was dragged sideways for a moment, and then he heard Roger's voice through the haze. Crap, sorry, Kosk. Your leg slipped. I was just getting you into the stretcher here, to get you off the beach and into the shelter. He whimpered a little before calming down. I'll live, human, Roger. Or at least, I hope so. Wait, shelter. You built a shelter in just, how long was I out? Roger shrugged. I'd say I've been working for, 4 or 5 hours, in between checking on you to make sure that you'll be safe. Luckily, it's relatively low G planet, so I'm actually able to drag you over there without too much trouble. He fished out a ration bar from his pocket. Here, eat this. There's enough for 2 per day for a bit longer than we should be expected to wait, and I'll see if there's anything that I can forage tomorrow. Kosk slowly chewed on his ration bar. It was completely devoid of flavor and packed with all the nutrients a sophont could need, and 2 bars per day should just be a hair over the right amount for an adult Kothok. Well, it was a little undignified, perhaps, but he could probably endure being cared for 20 days like this, so long as the human didn't insist on those strange noises he produced in his cabin over the course of this journey.
Human Roger, that strange box of yours with the strings and the stick attached, you didn't manage to get that into the lifepod, did you?
Roger looked a bit crestfallen.
Oh, I didn't realize that you were a banjo enthusiast, too. No, I didn't have time to give it any belongings, mine or yours. Might have had the time if you were mobile, but when I saw you take the door to the face like that, I didn't have much of a choice.
Quoth looked at Roger as though the human had suddenly turned blue and grown gills and a third eye, which would have made him at least appear to be a civilized species.
You didn't have a choice between saving my life and saving your own possessions. Was your cabin on fire? Was it venting? No, our cabins were not against the hull.
Roger blinked. What? No, it's common sense, life before material possessions. He shrugged and hoisted Orc's stretcher onto a surprisingly sturdy-looking wooden frame, clearly fit to hold the stretcher suspended from the ground.
All right, that should serve you well for now. I can get on building a better bed after I've looked for more food.
Orc slowly swallowed the rest of his ration bar and then closed his eyes.
I think I need to sleep again.
Quoth slowly chewed the morning ration bar. After 12 days, he was almost ready to lick Human Roger's arm for a speck of flavor, though he didn't quite feel like testing the human's intimate zones, even for so strong a need. Though Human Roger seemed to be behaving a little strangely, more so than on the ship. He'd fallen into a pattern of 3 standard days of almost frenzied energy, slowly tapering off and turning into a helpless lethargy on the 4th day, when he'd spend all day sleeping, except if Quoth needed something. It was unsettling, but he couldn't deny that Human Roger had spent those waking days and nights in quite a productive manner. The shelter was quite cozy, and the new and improved bed was remarkably pleasant, though Quoth was becoming a little suspicious of those strange stains in Human Roger's clothes. If he didn't know better, he would have thought that it looked like some kind of fruit juice. Despite Human Roger swearing he hadn't found anything edible on the island. Well, except for fresh water, of course. Thank the stars. He supposed it could just be tree sap or something similar from all the wood cutting. But still, it was a little annoying at how Human Roger always seemed to have half-eaten ration bars sticking out of his shirt pocket. Quoth was stuck on 2 per day, while Human Roger was gorging himself as he pleased. Quoth was afraid. He asked Human Roger about the strange stains on the shirt, and Human Roger became angry, shouting about how he wasn't getting any gratitude and how he'd sacrificed so much to save Quoth, and how Quoth didn't understand human compassion, being a stupid alien. He'd heard rumors that humans could behave strangely and irrationally, but this was out of place, even for weird habits displayed so far. Quoth had curled himself in the bed as best he could with his leg braces, shrinking away from Human Roger's anger. And then Human Roger had stopped and just looked at him, as though he caught himself striking his own mother. Human Roger also hadn't reached the lethargic stage of his cycle this time, staying awake for 3 more days, and becoming increasingly irritable and strange in the process. The 20th standard day came, and Human Roger had stated. The rescue shuttle showed up with a loud screech. Human Roger stumbled out of the little hut, eyes bloodshot, and said something to the rescuers that Quoth couldn't hear. But then 3 other people entered, and 2 of them started carrying his bed out to the shuttle, clearly instructed as to how best lift the whole frame without jostling Quoth. As he was carried out, he spotted a pile of what could only be large fruits, and a pile of what appeared to be seeds and skins from the fruits. He just stared at the piles, speechless, not even registering that the other people in the shuttle and his righteous indignation began to seethe, and his gills took on a purplish hue. Quoth seethed as he lay in the hospital. Here the human had belittled him in secret, all under the pretense of caring for him. Surely it was all out of spite for losing that dreadful banjo of his. The Hewesi doctor approached him, giving him a cautious smile. Well, I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is that your legs are almost guaranteed to heal without further intervention. The breaks were clean and the human set the bones perfectly. It's going to take a while longer for the bones to grow back together properly, of course,
but it does not appear that we shall have to make any further corrections. Your, human companion, though. Quoth grumped and leaned back. What? He ran off and said I'd pay for whatever he purchased on the way out. That lying, selfish... The doctor's shoulders fell. All four of them in a gesture of bafflement. The human saved your life, and you are ungrateful? Quoth sneered. For 20 days, he told me he didn't find anything edible on the island, and yet he gorged himself on fresh fruit every day while I was stuck in those awful ration bars. The doctor shook his head. Oh, no, nothing of the sort. Here, let me show you. He pulled aside the curtains between Quoth's bed and the neighboring one, where human Roger was stretched out, looking more gaunt than Quoth had realized he'd become on the island, with a mask over his face and several tubes sticking into his arms. Tell me, how many ration bars did you eat while there? Quoth blinked with all three eyes at once. 2 per day, except for the first and last, so, 38. Why? The doctor shook his head. The fruits were rich in alkaloids, the highly toxic ones. The life pod had a small scanner to identify edible and inedible plants. According to the scans, the fruits contained high doses of... He consulted his tablet. Caffeine, amphetamine, opium, cocaine, and nicotine. Components which humans apparently have some ridiculous resistance. You know, Deathworlders. But where the fruit would have killed you in minutes, it instead, worked as several kinds of nerve stimulants, along with anxiety dampeners, pain reduction, and appetite suppressors. According to the rescue team, the ration box from the life pod still had 52 bars left out of the original 100, meaning the human starved himself deliberately to increase your chances should the recovery team be late. It seems that he lost between 10 and 15% of his body mass, far more than what is healthy. Quoth sat up and stared at human Roger's sleeping form, completely at a loss. Why? If he was sure we'd get help in 20 days, why would he do that to himself? The doctor shook his head. That's not quite right. The message in the life pod says a minimum of 20 standard days. It could even be 40 standard days between when the accident occurs and until the rescue ship arrives and locates the active pods. It seems he was fully prepared to try and stretch his health to the brink for your sake. Quoth scratched his head. But why? The doctor looked at the tablet again. According to the rescue team, he said that you were the first alien he'd met who loves... He squinted to the text. What's a banjo? End of story. Just a quick shout out to the T5 peeps. Bob the Dragon, Cat Crab Lobster, Data Magnet, Dark Machine, Bezic, Try Again 95, Pudic Yol, Astrea the Dreamer, Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Athelia, Meridian 117, and Jordan Bucksmorm. Thank you very much. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed. There are links down below, both to support this channel and for the author of this fiction. Anyways, I hope you all have a fantastic one, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.